And Joram son of Achab became king in Israel, in the 18th year of Josaphat king of Judah, and he reigned 12 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, yet not like his father, and not like his mother. And he removed the steles of Baal that his father had made. Yet he clung to the sin of Jeroboam son of Nebat, who made Israel sin. He did not depart from it. And Mosa king of Moab was a sheepmaster, and he used to return to the king of Israel at the rising 100,000 lambs, and 100,000 rams, based on wool. And it happened after Achab died, that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. And King Joram went out of Samaria in that day and inspected Israel. And he went and sent to Josaphat king of Judah, saying, The king of Moab rebelled against me. Will you go with me to Moab to battle? And he said, I will go up, like me, like you, as my people are your people, as my horses are your horses. And he said, By which way should I go up? And he said, The way of the wilderness of Edom. And the king of Israel set out, and the king of Judah, and the king of Edom. And they circled around a journey of 7 days, and there was no water for the camp, or for the animals that were at their feet. And the king of Israel said, Oh, for the Lord has summoned the 3 kings passing by, to give them into the hand of Moab. And Josaphat said, Is there no prophet of the Lord here? And let us inquire of the Lord through him. And one of the servants of the kings of Israel answered and said, Elisha son of Shaphat, who poured water on the hands of Elijah, is here. And Josaphat said, He has a word of the Lord. And the king of Israel and Josaphat king of Judah, and the king of Edom went down to him. And Elisha said to the king of Israel, What have I to do with you? Go to the prophets of your father. And the king of Israel said to him, No, for the Lord has summoned the 3 kings, to hand them over to the hands of Moab. And Elisha said, The Lord of hosts before whom I stand lives, unless I regard the person of Josaphat king of Judah, if I had looked at you and seen you. But as it is, get me a harpist. And it happened, as the harpist was playing, that the hand of the Lord came upon him, and he said, This is what the Lord says, Make this wadi troughs by troughs. For this is what the Lord says, You shall not see wind, and you shall not see rain, and this wadi shall be filled with water, and you shall drink, you and your possessions and your animals. And this is easy in the sight of the Lord, and I will hand over Moab in your hand. And you shall strike every strong city, and every good tree you shall fell, and all springs of water you shall stop up, and every good portion of land you shall ruin with stones. And it happened in the morning, when the offering was going up, and behold, waters were coming from the way of Edom, and the land was filled with water. And all Moab heard that the kings had come up to fight them. And they called out, from everyone wearing a belt and upward, and they stood at the frontier. And they rose early in the morning, and the sun rose over the waters. And Moab saw the waters opposite, red as blood. And they said, This is blood of the sword. The kings had a fight, and they struck a man his neighbor, and now to the spoils Moab. And they entered into the camp of Israel. And Israel rose up, and they struck Moab, and they fled from before them. And they entered Moab, going in and beating. And the cities they overturned, and on every good portion of land they threw a man his stone, and they filled it. And every spring of water they stopped up, and every good tree they felled, until they left the stones of the wall overturned. And the slingers surrounded and struck it. And the king of Moab saw that the battle prevailed over him, and he took with him 700 men who drew sword, to break through to the king of Edom, but they could not. And he took his firstborn son, who became king in his stead, and offered him up as a whole burnt offering on the wall. And great regret came upon Israel, and they withdrew from him, and returned to their land. And one woman from the sons of the prophets cried to Elisha, saying, Your slave my husband died, and you knew that he was a slave who feared the Lord. And the creditor came to take my 2 sons for himself as slaves. And Elisha said, What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house? And she said, Your slave has nothing in the house, but for oil with which I shall anoint myself. And he said to her, Come on, ask for yourself vessels outside from all your neighbors, empty vessels, do not make them few. And you shall enter and shut the door upon you, and upon your sons, and you shall pour out into these vessels, and that which has been filled you shall remove. And she departed from him, and did so, and shut the door upon her and upon her sons. They kept coming near to her, and she kept pouring in, until the vessels were filled. And she said to her sons, Bring yet to me a vessel. And they said to her, There is no longer a vessel. And the oil stopped, and she came and told the man of God. And Elisha said, Come on and sell the oil, and you shall pay your interests, and you and your sons shall live by the remaining oil. And a day came, and Elisha passed through to Suman, and a great woman was there, and she prevailed on him to eat bread. And it happened after enough of his entrances, that he turned aside to eat there. And the woman said to her husband, Look, indeed I knew that this man was a holy man of God. He regularly passes through to us. Let us now make for him an upper chamber, a small place, and put for him there a bed, and a table, and a chair, and a lampstand. And it shall be, when he enters to us, that he shall turn aside there. And a day came, and he entered there, and turned aside to the upper chamber, and lay down there. And he said to Gizi his lad, Call to me this Somanite woman. And he called her, and she stood before him. And he said to him, Do say to her, Behold, you amazed us with all this amazement. What must be done for you? Is it a word on your behalf to the king, or to the commander of the force? And she said, I live among my own people. And he said, What must be done for her? And Gizi his lad said, Actually, she has no son, and her husband is old. And he called her, and she stood at the door. And Elisha said to her, At this season, as the time is ripe, you shall have embraced a son. But she said, No, my lord, do not deceive your slave. And the woman conceived and bore a son at this season, as the time was ripe, as Elisha said to her. And the child matured, and it happened when the child went out to his father to the reapers, that he said to his father, My head, my head. And he said to his lad, Carry him to his mother. And he carried him to his mother, and he lay down on her knees until noon, and he died. And she carried him up, and laid him on the bed of the man of God, and closed upon him, and went out. And she called her husband, and said, Do send me one of the lads and one of the donkeys, and I shall go quickly to the man of God, and come back. And he said, Why is it that you go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. And she said, Peace. And she saddled the donkey, and said to her lad, Lead, go, do not hold back for me to mount, for if I tell you, Come on, and you shall go and come to the man of God at the Carmelite mountain. And it happened, as Elisha saw her coming, that he said to Gizi his lad, Look, indeed there is that Somanite woman. Now run to meet her, and you shall say, Do you have peace? Does your husband have peace? Does the child have peace? And she said, Peace. And she came to Elisha at the mountain, and she caught hold of his feet. And Gizi approached to push her away. And Elisha said, Let her alone, for her soul is painful to her. And the Lord hid it from me, and did not tell me. Then she said, Did I ask for a son from my Lord? Did I not say, You shall not go astray with me? And Elisha said to Gizi, Gird up your loins, and take my staff in your hand, and go. For if you meet a man, you shall not bless him. And if a man blesses you, you shall not answer him. And you shall lay my staff on the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, The Lord lives, and your soul lives, if I will abandon you. And Elisha rose up and went after her. And Gizi went on ahead of her, and laid the staff on the face of the child. But there was no sound, and there was no hearing. And he went back to meet him, and told him, saying, The child is not awakened. And Elisha entered into the house, and behold, the child was lying dead on his bed. And Elisha entered into the house, and closed the door upon the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. And he went up and lay upon the child, and he put his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands, and he bent over him, and the flesh of the child was warmed. And he turned around and walked to and fro in the house, and went up and bent over the child 7 times. And the child opened his eyes. And Elisha cried out to Gehazi and said, Call this Sunemite woman. And he called, and she came in to him. And Elisha said, Take your son. And the woman came in and fell at his feet and did obeisance on the ground. And she took her son and went out. And Elisha returned to Gilgal, and the famine was in the land. And the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And Elisha said to his lad, Put the large cauldron on, and boil boiled stuff for the sons of the prophets. And one went out into the field to gather arioth. And he found a vine in the field, and gathered from it a wild gourd, his garment full. And he threw it into the cauldron of boiled stuff, for they knew it not. And he poured it out for the men to eat. And it happened, while they were eating from the boiled stuff, that behold, they cried out and said, O man of God, there is death in the cauldron. And they could not eat it. And he said, Bring flour, and throw it into the cauldron. And Elisha said to Gehazi the lad, Pour for the people, and let them eat. And there was no longer any harmful thing there in the cauldron. And a man passed through from Beth Sarisah, and he brought to the man of God from the first products, 20 barley loaves and fruit cakes. And he said, Give it to the people, and let them eat. And his attendants said, Why should I set this before 100 men? And he said, Give it to the people, and let them eat, for this is what the Lord says, They shall eat and leave some behind. And they ate and left some behind, according to the word of the Lord. And Naiman, the commander of the force of Syria, was a great man before his master, and was marveled at in face, because by him the Lord gave deliverance to Syria. And the man was powerful in strength, leprous. And as for Syria, they went out lightly armed, and took captive from the land of Israel a little girl, and she was in the presence of the wife of Naiman. And she said to her mistress, Would that my lord were in the presence of the prophet of God who is in Samaria. Then he will recover him from his leprosy. And she went in and told her own lord and said, Thus and so said the girl from the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said to Naiman, Come here, enter, and I will send out a document to the king of Israel. And he went and took in his hand 10 talents of silver, and 6,000 gold pieces, and 10 changes of robes. And he brought the document to the king of Israel, saying, And now, as soon as this document comes to you, behold, I sent to you Naiman my slave, and you shall recover him from his leprosy. And it happened, as the king of Israel read the document, that he tore his clothes and said, Am I a god to put to death and to make alive, that this man sends to me to recover a man from his leprosy? For only know now and see that this man is setting me up as an excuse. And it happened, as Elisha heard that the king of Israel had torn his own clothes, that he sent to the king of Israel, saying, Why did you tear your clothes? Do let Naiman come to me, and let him know that there is a prophet in Israel. And Naiman came in horse and chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, Going, wash 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh shall return to you, and you shall be cleansed. And Naiman became angry and went away and said, Behold now, I kept saying that he will come out to me, and stand and call out in the name of his God, and lay his hand on the place and recover the leprosy. Are not Abana and Parphar, rivers of Damascus, better than the Jordan and all the waters of Israel? Going, shall I not wash in them and be cleansed? And he turned and went away in a rage. And his servants approached and said to him, The prophet spoke a great word to you. Shall you not do it? Even because he said to you, Wash and be cleansed. And Naiman went down and immersed himself in the Jordan 7 times, according to the word of Elisha. And his flesh returned like the flesh of a small child, and he was cleansed. And he returned to Elisha, he and all his camp. And he came and stood and said, Behold, indeed I know that there is no God in all the earth, but only in Israel. And now accept the blessing from your slave. And Elisha said, The Lord lives, before whom I stand, if I will accept it. And he urged him to accept, but he refused. And Naiman said, And if not, do let there be given to your slave a load of a pair of mules, and you shall give me from the red earth, For your slave will no longer make whole burnt offering and sacrifice to other gods, except to the Lord alone. And the Lord will have mercy on your slave, when my master enters into Ramon's house, to do obeisance to him, and he will rest on my arm, and I will do obeisance in Ramon's house, when he does obeisance in Ramon's house, and then the Lord will have mercy on your slave in this matter. And Elisha said to Naiman, Go in peace. And he went away from him a little distance in the land. And Gehazi the lad of Elisha said, Behold, my master spared Naiman, this Syrian, by not accepting from his hand what he brought. The Lord lives, for I will surely run after him and get something from him. And Gehazi hurried after Naiman, and Naiman saw him running after him, and he turned around from the chariot to meet him. And he said, Peace. My master sent me, saying, Behold, now there came to me 2 lads from Mount Ephraim, from the sons of the prophets. Do give them a talent of silver and 2 changes of robes. And Naiman said, Accept 2 talents of silver. And he accepted it in 2 bags, with 2 changes of robes, and put them on 2 of his lads. And they carried them in front of him. And they came into the darkness, and he took from their hands and stored the things in a house, and he dismissed the men. And he went in and stood near his master. And Elisha said to him, Where have you come from, Gehazi? And Gehazi said, Your slave is not gone here or there. And Elisha said to him, Did my heart not go with you when the man turned around from the chariot to meet you? Even now you accepted the silver, even now you accepted the clothing. And shall you receive by him gardens and olive orchards and vineyards and sheep, and cattle and male servants and female servants? And the leprosy of Naiman shall cling to you and to your offspring forever. And he went out of his presence leprous, as if snow.